What's up, guys? We are back with another PremiumDNA Madballs figure. Today we're taking a look at Splitting Headache, and his name very much fits the idea of what this character is. Just like with, well, the entire wave really, we do get the slipcover treatment for these guys. So you've got the big Madballs logo there with all of the various Madball heads from the past almost 40 years. That's terrifying. All over this box. Of course, slipcover, so we can pop this guy off, and we've got our purple box inside of there. So you've got Splitting Headache there inside the big window. You've got his artwork on the bottom panel with his nameplate. One side panel has a very grotesque shot of the character himself, and then the other side panel has the Madball head artwork for the entire wave. And then on the back side we get a nice spread with cross-sell with a large shot of the character in this box, the other three figures in wave one, and a loadout of all of his accessories. So just like I said the first time around, I really like this box. It's very collector friendly, it's easy to put them back in, but the presentation's really nice. I dig the slip covers too, but we got to do it, we got to pull them out. So let's take a look. And here we go, out of the package our Splitting Headache figure. So his name kind of indicates that you'd think he's maybe a little bit less than comfortable here. And this guy is easily one of the more disgusting and gross figures in this wave. They are all pretty gross for one reason or another, but I mean, look at this guy. So let's get started, see what he can do, see how he moves around. If you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all when it comes to this line. And I'm not saying that in a negative sense. They are very consistent in their articulation because they're all basically the same kind of figure. It really comes down to deco and accessories on these to really make them different. Obviously they all look very, very different, but they all move exactly the same. So you've got a head that's on a ball peg. It doesn't really do much though in terms of play out to the side or forward and backward. It's mostly a rotation point. Your arms are going to go out at the shoulders, so they go out more than 90 degrees. You've got rotation. You've got your single jointed rotating elbow, a little bit better than 90, a little bit. And then you've got hinges and rotation at those wrists. We've got our diaphragm cut here, so he goes backwards and forwards slightly, not much play left or right, and then it's your full rotation point there also. Legs, of course, are going to go out about that far. Pretty far for such big fat legs. Again, these are just pegs that go up into the crotch. If you want to kick them out, they do have to kind of kick to the side a little bit, and then you can twist there. We've also got our single jointed knee, which does rotate, and then you've got your hinges and rocker down at those ankles. So he's very, very similar to any other figure in this wave. They are all very much the same kind of construction, the same articulation scheme. Even though he has a very unique sculpt and he's very asymmetrical, nothing really gets in the way. So he is very, very much, you know, like Hornhead, for example. Even though he is very similar across the board on his body size and shape and design, this guy being incredibly different, none of this stuff really gets in the way. Like these big bone protrusions don't get in the way or anything like that. So you don't really have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. I thought he might be a little bit more limited at the shoulder and the elbow because of this kind of stuff, but he is surprisingly not. So overall, moves pretty well for such a weird looking thing. And weird looking is easily the nicest way of talking about this guy, because Splitting Headache is just weird. There's a lot going on with this figure, and there's a lot of good stuff going on with this figure. So he is the same kind of size that we see across the board. So they're all big, thick, chunky figures, you know, about 6 inches tall roughly, and then, you know, built like a truck as far as overall size. So he's really big, but it's all about the detail on this guy. So he is, of course, split down the middle. It's kind of the name in some respects. You've got kind of like the zombified flesh on one side, and then you've got some guts spilling out on the other, and then you've got a ton of exposed bone on the other. And the one thing that I absolutely keep getting drawn to on this figure when it comes to the design is not like the blood and whatever all this ooze and innards and stuff is, it's the bone work, because the bones are actually like painted and sculpted like actual bones. They're pitted a little bit, so they have texture to them. They've got little dots and little holes all over them to make them look like actual bone. And then of course the color is a very human bone like. So I'm really happy with the way these turned out. Of course they are a little bit accentuated. He's got these super enormous arms and legs. So of course he has really big bones to go along with that. But I think that a little attention to detail is really nice. Colors on this figure obviously are very vibrant and bright. They pop. I mean, he is like kind of a baby blue, and just like Hornhead from the first review that I did, he has kind of a dry brushing all over him. So he is blue underneath, but then there's this sort of white over top to help accentuate things and just give it like a two-tone pattern almost. So there is a ton of paint even on what could have just been bare plastic, but then you've got all this like blue goop that's oozing out of him. You've got blood all over him. You've got these like innards and the bile or whatever it is that's oozing out of his wounds there. You've got the exposed rib cage with more guts and goop coming out of him, sutures and gashes and wounds all over him. So this is definitely one of the grosser figures for sure. I mean, they're all gross in their own way, but this guy is like the literal Walking Dead, really. So there is a ton of stuff. And what's really cool about him is that all of the goop and everything that's on him is not just paint. It's all sculpted. So, you know, like all this stuff that's all the way down here, even on the feet, is all sculpted. All the way down the legs, all the stuff that's oozing out of his belly there, it's all sculpted and painted on top of it. And it's all really clean and crisp. So I don't really have even remotely anything negative to say about the way this guy looks. I think he's absolutely wild. Of course, he's topped off with a very, very detailed head sculpt. So more of that baby blue. He's got the exposed eye here, which is like bugging out of his head. You've got the teeth that are kind of gritting. He's got like this sort of maniacal smile about him, and tons and tons and tons of that pitted bone work all over him. You've even got like the cracks that run down a skull, and then you've got some of this blue brain that's sort of peeking out of there in a few spots as well, with again tons and tons of blood just all over him. So he's definitely a gross out kind of figure. He is definitely going to be one that maybe draws your eye if you were looking at all four at the same time. He's just got a lot of vibrancy, a lot of really different clashing colors about him. And then of course, I mean, just look at him. He's weird. He's a very weird looking figure, but I really think they knocked it out of the park with the sculpt, with the paint, and tons of little intricate detail on this guy. And then as far as accessories goes, he is definitely going to be up there for one of the more gross out type of characters when it comes to all the weird stuff he comes with. So let's start with the hands. Let's get the hands out of the way. So he's got fists on him in the box. You get 6 extra hands for a total of 8. So you get a set of finger pointing hands. You get a set of a kind of open palm, slightly gripping, but not gripping hands. And then you get a set of actual gripping hands. And of course, these are all fully painted, fully sculpted with all the goop all over them, all the blood, more of that dry brushing. Even the fingernails are painted that nice shiny pink. So a lot of detail there. As far as actual accessories for this guy, he comes with a skateboard, which is unexpected, but pretty cool. So it doesn't move. There is no moving wheels on this. I'm not exactly beat up about that. It's not a huge deal for me. It's broken anyway. So like, you know, you've got this big screw that's coming out of the side there, and you've got a Band-Aid on it. It's got, I don't know, some mud. I'm hoping that's mud on there. And then you've got this big plate that is kind of screwed on top. So he can stand on this pretty good. It's kind of small. Like, it's not big. Well, I guess it's kind of big, but it's also maybe not as big as it could be for this guy. But I think it works pretty well, and it's also really weird looking too. It's even got like a worm on the wheels there. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into these accessories. Like, there's a lot of little detail that you probably wouldn't expect to see otherwise. I mean, this thing looks like it's about to fall apart. So I'm really happy with that. We get a bone club for him. And this is another thing. It's kind of like held together with some rivets and some screws. You got a big nail here. There's a Black Widow spider crawling up this side. And then, of course, we've got some blood splatter going on here. And just like the bones on the figure, this is pitted and sort of worn. So like an actual human bone would be. Well, I guess any bone would be. It doesn't have to be a human bone, does it? So it's really nice looking. This looks fantastic. So it's a very blunt instrument, but I think it gets the point across. And then my favorite accessory that he comes with is this monster. So you've got this crowbar, of course, with blood all over it. It has an eye that is situated on the top. It's kind of pliable too, and it has a brain on the back of it. So I don't understand the physics behind this particular piece, how this thing is holding itself together, but I don't really care either because it's really cool looking. It's really nasty, it's really gross, and this is like a quintessential Madballs kind of thing, and I think it works really well for a guy that is like, you know, half flayed here basically. So a lot of cool stuff. I mean, that's pretty much a hallmark with these figures, is that there's a lot of cool stuff. There's tons of different options in terms of hands, and then you get these really weird, unique accessories like this that really only go with this kind of stuff, but they're going to be a lot of fun to play with, I don't know, across other lines for sure. So yeah, this is another winner. I'm really enjoying these figures. I really, really like this one in particular. And just like the rest of the line, you know, they're very big, they're bulky, they're beefy. They're going to stack up really well with just about any other line because they don't necessarily have to scale with anything else. So they're going to look good with a lot of other lines. And just like every other figure, he is modular. So you can take him apart and put him together again with other pieces from other figures if you want to do that. But as far as what he offers on his own, I mean, it's really fantastic. The sculpt work, the paint work, the detail is through the roof on this guy. He's just got a crazy theme about him to begin with. Really, really ramps up the gross out factor with Madballs. And then, of course, he comes with some really awesome accessories. I love the wide array of hands we get with these guys, and the actual unique accessories for Splitting Headache here are pretty crazy. The brain crowbar, the skateboard is really nicely done, and all around, I'm just enjoying the level of detail and just kind of nastiness that these things are bringing to the table. So that's going to do it for this look at the PremiumDNA Madballs Splitting Headache. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.